Welcome back as we next deal with conduit set into a chased wall. For conduit which is concealed in the brickwork, below the surface of the plaster, the brickwork needs to be cut out to accommodate the conduit and its fittings. The procedure of cutting out the brickwork in order to set the conduit beneath the wall face is known as chasing. Let us first look at the process involved in this. The wall is marked out in similar fashion to the surface-mounted method. Parallel lines are drawn to provide a cutting guide for the conduit. Chasing is performed using an angle grinder. If you have not yet used an angle grinder, then we strongly suggest that you familiarize yourself with this tool by viewing TechAV's program EAG. Before using the grinder, you should first perform some routine checks. These include checking the type of cutting disc to make sure that a masonry disc is fitted. If the grinder is fitted with a metal cutting disc, then it must be replaced with a masonry disc, following the standard procedures for replacement. Make sure that the disc is securely fastened on the spindle and that the guard and the handle are firmly secured. As the cutting or chasing process involves certain risks, it is important that you use personal protective safety equipment in the form of a dust mask to filter the brick dust, goggles to protect your eyes, a hard hat to protect your head, and gloves to protect your hands. Hold the grinder firmly using both hands and switch on. A vertical cut should always begin at the top of the run, working downward. The rotation of the wheel will tend to pull the machine down. Keep a firm grip on the machine and guide its movement on the cutting line. A matchstick can be used to gauge the cutting depth. A depth of about 5 millimeters more than the diameter of the conduit will be sufficient to set the conduit below plaster depth. Remember that the aim is to set the conduit and accessories just beneath the brick facing. It must be kept in mind that the conduit and accessories must not protrude above the surface of the bricks. Neither should they be recessed too deeply, as you will have difficulty securing the faceplates onto boxes. Parallel cuts are made that are spaced wide enough to allow room for the width of the conduit being used. Switch box and socket box outlines can be cut with the grinder. Do not be concerned that the slots are wider than the box, as these will be covered with plaster later. Once the slots have been cut, the brickwork between them must be chiseled out using a cold chisel and a club hammer. This action requires some skill, and you will need to practice this work. The socket and switch box cavities are chiseled in similar fashion. Once all the cavities have been neatly chiseled out, we can assemble the components using the necessary adapters and lock nuts as you were shown in previous programs. To secure the conduit into the cavities prior to plastering, we may use nails as shown here. Boxes are normally wedged into position using wooden wedges to set the box square and level. In order to prevent plaster from filling a switch box, damp newspaper is used. Plastering can now be performed over the whole assembly. Let us review what you have learnt in this part of the program. We learnt that the angle grinder must be prepared and fitted with a masonry cutting disc. We saw that we must use personal protective clothing and equipment. Vertical slots are cut from top to bottom, allowing the natural downward pull of the disc to move the grinder as you guide it on the cutting line. Brickwork between the slots is then chiselled out to the desired depth. The conduit is assembled, with its accessories, and fixed into the chased cavity prior to plastering. Switch boxes are filled with damp newspaper to prevent them being filled with plaster.